Welcome to my views on news. Sunday's first video. Only one news story, very important one. We know that on the face of it, Ethiopian and Eritrean governments seem to be in alliance, seem to be on the same page regarding regional issues, regarding Ethiopian internal issues as well. Especially when it comes to fighting TPLF, when it comes to containing TPLF. But there are some internal issues between the two governments, Ethiopian and Eritrean governments. PM Abiy at a meeting this week passed some remarks about Eritrean government's long-term plans about Ethiopia. We have received this information through some sources, reliable sources. What happened? What did PM Abiy say about Eritrea? What did he say about Isaias Afwerki, Eritrean president? Firstly, when it comes to containing TPLF, disarming TPLF, both Ethiopian and Eritrean governments are on the same page. They are in alliance. Alliance has been largely unbroken since November 2020. Even before that, they formed this alliance. So on this one point, they are united, the two sides. And players in Ethiopia are united as well when it comes to containing TPLF, when it comes to restricting TPLF to only Tigray, disarming TPLF as well. But there are other issues between the two countries. Is Eritrea ready to form a long-term relationship with Ethiopia? Is Eritrea ready to sign some key agreements, trade agreements, use of ports and other agreements with Ethiopia? Has some progress been made about some understandings reached in the past? The meeting was held with participation of PM Abiy, Vice Chairman of Prosperity Party Adam Farah, and Amhara Prosperity Party officials. Yilkal Kefale, Amhara region's president, was there too. And there, PM Abiy talked about Eritrea. He said that Eritrea was not interested in building a long-term relationship with Ethiopia. Why? He said that Ethiopia offered to sell electricity to Eritrea. Eritrean electricity is much more expensive. If Ethiopia supplies electricity to Eritrea, it would be cheaper electricity. But Eritrea did not agree. We know that Ethiopia is selling electricity to neighboring countries like Kenya, South Sudan as well, especially after good started power generation. Ethiopia signed agreements, especially with Kenya. But Eritrea refused, or you can say Eritrea is not ready to buy electricity from Ethiopia, firstly. Secondly, PM Abiy said that Ethiopia was interested in using a support of Eritrea because Ethiopia wants to diversify its reliance on foreign ports. Ethiopia is using Djibouti's ports, being a landlocked country, using Djibouti's ports for years. But Ethiopia wants to diversify its use of ports by using other ports in the region too, like Somaliland, Berbera port, like Kenyan port, and a port in Eritrea, Assab. And some Arab countries were willing to invest in building this port to turn it into an international level port. But Again, Eritrea refused. Ethiopia was interested in buying some shares in this sport with participation of Arab countries too, but Eritrea refused. Thirdly, he talked about the training, arming of Ethiopian fighters in Eritrea. He said Oromo, Afar, and Amhara rebels are being trained and armed on Eritrean soil. It has been going on for years and still it's happening. We know that historically Ethiopia has been hosting Ethiopian fighters for decades, for years rather. Oromo fighters were based there, Amhara, Fano fighters are being trained there, and Afars are trained as well because the military has been in Afar in this third round of fighting as well. So Eritrea is backing non-state actors without the approval of Ethiopian government. Oromo, Afar and Amhara fighters. These 3 points were raised by Ethiopian PM Abiy at the meeting. And he said that based on these 3 points, it can be concluded that Eritrea is not interested in building a long-term relationship with Ethiopia. Ethiopia will have to be careful about Eritrean intervention, about Eritrean intentions in Ethiopia. Now, again, I'm repeating that this information is not some official word issued through a statement. Such things are not shared publicly. It happens at meetings. Such information is discussed at meetings, closed door meetings. But somehow things come out. And that is what happened. Now, why did PM Abiy raise the question of Ethiopia-Eritrea relationship at a meeting of Amhara Prosperity Party? Obviously, he sent a message to Amhara political elite. We know that Eritrea and Amhara groups are new allies. We know it for months that Eritrea has been training them. A new alliance is emerging. It has emerged rather. Federal government is concerned. It knows that Amhara region-based groups are being supported by Eritrea. And the groups could be used against a federal government one day. That is why perhaps Fano was dismantled. Fano is being disarmed. There are fears in Addis Ababa that Amhara region-based armed groups could be exploited, could be used by Asmara against Addis Ababa. That is why we saw this crackdown ongoing. And hardliners in the Amhara region, which are backed by Eritrea, some say, are the targets of Ethiopian federal government. Hardliner activists, journalists, Fano supporters, politicians, all are being detained. Why? Because the federal government wants to avoid, it wants to prevent any anti-federal government movement or armed resistance against federal government which could be backed by Eritrea. So here I think PM Abiy sent a very clear message to the ruling elite of Amhara region, Amhara Prosperity Party, that Amhara groups should reconsider their alliance with Eritrea. Nothing should be done without the approval from Ethiopian federal government. Federal government should be taken on board. Through federal government, things should progress. Because Eritrea cannot be trusted. Though he did not say, but he meant to say that so far, it's too early to say that Ethiopia and Eritrea are going to start a long-term relationship. Difficult to trust Eritrea now because Eritrea is interested only in eliminating TPLF. That is my analysis, that Eritrea is focused on eliminating TPLF. Its first priority is this. And secondly, obviously, Eritrea would like to be a stronger country than Ethiopia. That is what every country wants. It wants to be stronger than its neighbors. But Eritrea is a much smaller country than Ethiopia. So it means that PM Abiy's government is concerned. It will try to decrease Eritrean infants in Ethiopia in coming weeks or months, especially if the peace deal between Ethiopian federal government and TPLF is implemented. Then we could see some efforts from the federal government to curtail Eritrean infants in Ethiopia, and that could lead to a backlash as well from inside Ethiopia and from Eritrea as well. So, coming months are crucial for Ethiopia Eritrea relations. Was there alliance for just elimination of TPLF, or are they interested in building a long term relationship like they signed a tripartite agreement in 2018, I think? Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Isaias Afwerki, PM Abiy Ahmed, then former president of Somalia, Abdullahi Farmajo, signed a tripartite security and economic cooperation agreement. Is Eritrea interested in reviving that agreement or signing a new agreement? That remains to be seen. So far, Ethiopia is a little suspicious about Eritrean intervention in Ethiopia. If it happens, we'll try to keep you updated. Thank you for watching.